War fears grow as Putin orders troops to eastern Ukraine. A long-feared Russian invasion of Ukraine appeared to be imminent Monday, if not already underway, with Russian President Vladimir Putin ordering forces into separatist regions of eastern Ukraine. A vaguely worded decree signed by Putin did not say if troops were on the move, and it cast the order as an effort to maintain peace. But it appeared to dash the slim remaining hopes of averting a major conflict in Europe that could cause massive casualties, energy shortages on the continent, and economic chaos around the globe. Putin's directive came hours after he recognized the separatist regions in a rambling, fact-bending discourse on European history. The move paved the way to provide them military support, antagonizing Western leaders who regard it as a breach of world order, and set off a frenzied scramble by the US and others to respond. Underscoring the urgency, the UN Security Council held a rare nighttime emergency meeting on Monday at the request of Ukraine, the US and other countries. Under-Secretary General Rosemary DiCarlo opened the session with a warning that the risk of major conflict is real and needs to be prevented at all costs. Ukraine's President, Volodymyr Zelensky, sought to project calm, telling the country, "We are not afraid of anyone or anything. We don't owe anyone anything. And we won't give anything to anyone." His foreign minister, Dmytro Kuleba, would be in Washington on Tuesday to meet with Secretary of State Antony Blinken, the State Department said. At an earlier meeting of Putin's Security Council, a stream of top officials argued for recognizing the region's independence. One slipped up and said he favored including them as part of Russia, but Putin quickly corrected him. Recognizing the separatist region's independence is likely to be popular in Russia, where many share Putin's worldview. Russian state media released images of people in Donetsk setting off fireworks, waving large Russian flags, and playing Russia's national anthem. Ukrainians in Kiev, meanwhile, bristled at the move. Why should Russia recognize the rebel-held regions? If neighbors come to you and say, "This room will be ours," would you care about their opinion or not? "It's your flat, and it will be always your flat," said Maria Levkashina, a 48-year-old painter in the Ukrainian capital. Let them recognize whatever they want. But in my view, it can also provoke a war because normal people will fight for their country. With an estimated 150,000 Russian troops massed on three sides of Ukraine, the US has warned that Moscow has already decided to invade. Still, President Joe Biden and Putin tentatively agreed to a meeting brokered by French President Emmanuel Macron in a last-ditch effort to avoid war. If Russia moves in, the meeting will be off, but the prospect of a face-to-face summit resuscitated hopes in diplomacy to prevent a conflict that could devastate Ukraine and cause huge economic damage across Europe, which is heavily dependent on Russian energy. Russia says it wants Western guarantees that NATO won't allow Ukraine and other former Soviet countries to join as members, and Putin said Monday that a simple moratorium on Ukraine's accession wouldn't be enough. Moscow has also demanded the alliance halt weapons deployments to Ukraine and roll back its forces from Eastern Europe, demands flatly rejected by the West. Macron's office said Biden and Putin had accepted the principle of such a summit, to be followed by a broader meeting that would include other relevant stakeholders to discuss security and strategic stability in Europe. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, meanwhile, said the administration has always been ready to talk to avert a war but was also prepared to respond to any attack. During Monday night's emergency meeting, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, said Putin has put before the world a choice, and it must not look away because history tells us that looking the other way in the face of such hostility will be a far more costly path. China's UN Ambassador Zhang Jun called for restraint and a diplomatic solution to the crisis. Putin's announcement shattered a 2015 peace deal signed in Minsk requiring Ukraine to offer broad self-rule to the rebel regions, a major diplomatic coup for Moscow. That deal was resented by many in Ukraine who saw it as a capitulation, a blow to the country's integrity, and a betrayal of national interests. Putin and other officials argued Monday that the Ukrainian government has shown no appetite for implementing it. Over 14,000 people have been killed since conflict erupted in the eastern industrial heartland of Donbass in 2014, shortly after Moscow annexed Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula. Potential flashpoints multiplied. Sustained shelling continued Monday along the tense line of contact separating the opposing forces. Unusually, Russia said it had fended off an incursion from Ukraine, which Ukrainian officials denied. And Russia decided to prolong military drills in Belarus, which could offer a staging ground for an attack on the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. Ukraine and the separatist rebels have traded blame for ceasefire violations, with hundreds of explosions recorded daily. While separatists have charged that Ukrainian forces were firing on residential areas, Associated Press journalists reporting from several towns and villages in Ukrainian-held territory along the line of contact have not witnessed any notable escalation from the Ukrainian side, and have documented signs of intensified shelling by the separatists that destroyed homes and ripped up roads. Some residents of the main rebel-held city of Donetsk described sporadic shelling by Ukrainian forces, but they added that it wasn't on the same scale as earlier in the conflict. The separatist authorities said Monday that at least 4 civilians were killed by Ukrainian shelling over the past 24 hours, and several others were wounded. Ukraine's military said 2 Ukrainian soldiers were killed over the weekend, and another serviceman was wounded Monday. Ukrainian military spokesman Pavlo Kovalchuk insisted that Ukrainian forces weren't returning fire. In the village of Novognitivka on the Ukraine government-controlled side, 60-year-old Ekaterina Evseva said the shelling was worse than at the height of fighting early in the conflict. "We are on the edge of nervous breakdowns," she said, her voice trembling. "And there is nowhere to run." In another worrying sign, the Russian military said it killed 5 suspected saboteurs who crossed from Ukraine into Russia's Rostov region, and also destroyed 2 armored vehicles, and took a Ukrainian serviceman prisoner. Ukrainian border guard spokesman Andriy Demchenko dismissed the claim as disinformation. With fears of invasion high, the U.S. administration sent a letter to the United Nations human rights chief claiming that Moscow has compiled a list of Ukrainians to be killed or sent to detention camps after the invasion. The letter, first reported by the New York Times, was obtained by the AP.
Батарея, огонь!